Why does a La Mer cream cost more than an iPhone? Have you ever noticed that some things in the world of luxury seem to completely defy logic? After all, how is it possible that a 60 ml cream costs more than an iPhone? A device full of technology, sensors, chips, and years of innovation? It's almost offensive. And at the same time, irresistibly curious. And perhaps the most intriguing thing is realizing that millions of people continue to buy this cream without blinking, as if they were acquiring a kind of secret passport to another lifestyle. What few people admit is that the price of La Mer isn't just about science, it's about psychology, power, stories that shape beliefs, and emotional needs that we almost never confess aloud. It's one of those products that divides opinions. For some, it's absurd. For others, it's an emotional investment. And the uncomfortable truth is that neither side is entirely wrong. The game is deeper than it seems. And this is exactly where things get even more interesting. When you discover what's really being sold, you begin to realize that the value of a product is never just the product itself. There's something hidden behind that little glass jar, something that, when revealed, makes you see the luxury market in a new light. And that's what we're going to explore now. The myth behind the origin of La Mer, a burned scientist, a daring experiment, and a laboratory miracle. When someone sees a small bottle of La Mer for the first time, they can hardly imagine that it all began with a tragic accident. Max Huber, the scientist responsible for creating the formula, suffered severe burns during a failed experiment and spent years searching for something to regenerate his own skin. He didn't have unlimited resources, but he had an almost spiritual obsession with finding a cure. This kind of determination is born when pain becomes motivation, something that everyone has felt at some point in their lives. And it was from this mixture of suffering and genius that the myth of La Mer began to take shape. He tried more than 6,000 formulas, repeating processes, adjusting ingredients, noting each failure as if recording a silent battle against his own destiny. Imagine the scene. Sleepless nights, glassware scattered, and a man believing that the solution was there, hidden in some microscopic detail. It wasn't a quest for fame. It was survival. This kind of persistence reminds us that sometimes transformation is born precisely from what seems impossible to overcome. And it's curious how the story of this rebirth began even before the formula existed. It was during one of his failed attempts that Huber decided to take a closer look at the sea near his home, believing that certain organisms could regenerate too quickly to be a coincidence. This almost childlike curiosity, the kind adults often lose, paved the way for a discovery that would become the brand's signature. He began studying seaweed as if searching for an ancient secret, something that only reveals its power when someone looks more closely. And without realizing it, he was about to create the substance that would define the next chapter of this story. The secret ingredient, that Miracle Broth, and the almost ritualistic process that takes up to 4 months to complete. When Max Huber finally decided to observe the sea more closely, he realized that certain algae seemed to carry a unique type of energy. This is how the famous Miracle Broth was born, the ingredient that La Mer transformed into a legend. But what few people know is that it's not just an algae extract, it's a broth carefully cultivated, fermented, and energized over weeks. It's literally an artisanal process on a microscopic scale, and this meticulous care creates not just a compound, but a powerful narrative. To produce Miracle Broth, the brand follows an almost mystical ritual. The algae are harvested fresh, processed quickly, and undergo a biofermentation cycle that can last 3 to 4 months. During this period, the broth is exposed to light, sound, and specific temperature variations as if it were being trained to gain potency. It sounds exaggerated, and perhaps it is, but that's precisely what creates the charm. It's like hearing the story of a rare wine, where every detail enhances the feeling of value. This slow and meticulous process gives the final product an aura of exclusivity that is difficult to replicate. It's not just science, it's storytelling embedded in the formula. And, let's face it, people love to believe they're buying something that requires time, precision, and almost a touch of magic. This marriage between biotechnology and myth fuels the perception of luxury. And when we understand the emotional weight of this process, we can clearly see how psychology comes into play. Exactly the topic of the next section. The psychology of luxury. Why paying more makes some people believe that something works better. There's a curious phenomenon in the human brain. When something is very expensive, it automatically assumes it's better, even without scientific proof. It's as if the high price activates a kind of mental trigger that says, "This must work, because it wouldn't be so expensive for nothing." Psychologists call this the premium placebo effect, but in everyday life, we see it happen when someone feels more confident just by using an expensive item. And it's impressive how the luxury industry masterfully dominates this mechanism. If you observe, people don't buy La Mer just for the formula, but for the feeling of being part of an almost secret group. It's like entering a club where few have access, which automatically seems more valuable. This behavior is ancestral. Since ancient courts, humans have associated rarity with power. A modern example is in the wine market. Studies show that when the price changes, the brain activates different pleasure areas, even if the wine is the same. With cosmetics, the effect is repeated almost like magic. What's most fascinating is that when someone invests a lot of money in a product, the brain creates a cycle of internal justification. It works because I paid a lot, and not the other way around. This emotional confirmation transforms simple hydration into an almost spiritual experience, and that's precisely where the luxury lies. La Mer knows it sells more than just cream. It sells instant self-esteem, a ritual that makes a person feel more in control of their own life. And this powerful sensation opens doors to understanding the next layer of this brilliant strategy: exclusivity and scarcity. How the brand transformed a moisturizer into a status symbol. La Mer understood early on that, in the world of luxury, it's not enough to be good. You have to seem inaccessible. Therefore, every detail of the brand was crafted to convey the feeling that only a few people can own it. Scarcity, in this case, is not an accident. It's a calculated, almost surgical strategy. The select stores, the limited distribution, and even the deliberate silence about the formula are all part of the game. And, as an experienced mentor would say, nothing adds more value to a product than the impression that it's always for the few. The curious thing is how exclusivity works like an emotional magnet. The less available something seems, the more desirable it becomes. It's the same principle that makes people stand in huge lines for limited edition sneakers or bags that are only sold to approved customers. Big brands understand this so well that they even create waiting lists, turning the purchase into an event. In the case of La Mer, the cream ceases to be just a moisturizer and becomes a kind of social password. This symbolic construction makes the perceived value much greater than the real value. And it is precisely here that La Mer consolidates itself as an icon. When someone displays a jar of cream worth hundreds of dollars in the bathroom, they are not just showing skincare, but an entire lifestyle. It's like having a small artifact of power discreetly placed on the shelf. And, interestingly, this silent prestige prepares the ground for us to understand the role of celebrities in this story. Celebrities, Hollywood, and the "if they use it, it must be good" effect. In the world of luxury, few things are as powerful as the touch of celebrities. When someone sees a Hollywood actress applying La Mer before a red carpet event, their brain automatically places the product on an inaccessible pedestal. It's as if the mere fact of appearing in the routine of someone who seems to have everything instantly validates the cream. And the most interesting thing is that this happens even with people who don't follow the lives of these celebrities. Their status influences the status of the product, almost like an invisible electric current. The truth is that the influence of these figures creates an emotional narrative. If it works for them, who have access to the best dermatologists on the planet, it must work for me too. It's an almost childlike logic, but incredibly effective. Brands have known this for decades and invest fortunes in strategic relationships, often without even needing explicit advertising. A leaked photo at the airport, an open toiletry bag, or a comment in an interview is enough. Suddenly, the whole world wants to try that miracle cream. And this wheel spins quickly because each celebrity who endorses the product reinforces the idea that it is, in fact, special. La Mer doesn't just sell hydration, it sells belonging to a lifestyle that seems brilliant, organized, and almost cinematic. When the public observes this movement, the desire to participate in this same beauty ritual is born. And this cultural force opens up space to understand another essential point. Luxury doesn't sell products, it sells experiences. And that's what leads us to the next topic. Design, experience, and ritual. Why luxury doesn't sell cream, it sells sensation. When someone opens a jar of La Mer, they're not just starting a skincare routine, they're beginning a carefully designed ritual meant to feel special. The weight of the packaging, the texture of the glass, the gentle sound of the lid turning. Everything has been conceived to activate sensations that make the brain believe something extraordinary is about to happen. It's like entering an invisible spa without leaving your bathroom. And, interestingly, this sensory experience is worth as much as the product itself. Luxury understands that human beings don't buy objects, they buy how those objects make them feel. Therefore, using La Mer isn't about moisturizing the skin, but about experiencing a moment of self-care that feels almost like a privilege. Many people report applying the cream more slowly, as if they were making a silent pact with their best self. This behavior is common when the product carries strong symbolism. It's the same reason why a cup of coffee in a famous coffee shop seems tastier, even if the beans are the same. And this ritual, repeated every day, creates an emotional connection that makes any cheaper alternative almost irrelevant. The design isn't just beautiful, it's a physical reminder that the person deserves that moment. A powerful message that builds loyalty more than any advertisement. La Mer knows it sells a sense of value, and that keeps its customers coming back. And that's exactly where we begin to see who these people are, who choose to invest in something so symbolic, which naturally leads us to the next topic. The La Mer customer. Who they are and what they really look for when they buy such an expensive product. La Mer customers aren't just looking for more beautiful skin. They're looking for a sense of control over their own lives. Often they're people who work too much, have demanding routines, and find in those few minutes of skincare a moment of respite. It's as if, by applying the cream, they're silently saying, "I take care of myself, even when the world is rushing by." People like this seek not only results, but the emotional certainty that they are doing what's best for themselves. And luxury knows exactly how to speak to that need. This type of customer typically has a mix of pragmatism and fantasy. They know there are cheaper products that deliver similar results, but they choose La Mer because of the symbolism, almost like someone buying an imported car not for its power, but for the story the car tells. They value rituals, small pleasures, and the feeling of belonging to a select group. And this could range from an executive to a digital influencer who finds in the little jar an element that reinforces their visual identity. It seems frivolous, but it's profoundly human. Ultimately, these people are looking for more than just a cream. They're seeking emotional validation, self-esteem, and the feeling that they're not just living, but living well. It's as if each use is a silent reminder that they are prioritizing themselves, even if the day has been chaotic. This search for meaning, more than the product itself, sustains the brand's success. And when we look at this dynamic calmly, it's impossible not to question: does the price reflect real value, or are we facing a brilliant narrative? That's where the next topic comes in. The other side of the coin. Is the cream really worth the price, or is it all just hype? When someone sees the price of La Mer, the question that no one likes to admit naturally arises. But does it really work? The truth is that, from a scientific point of view, many dermatologists claim that there are cheaper moisturizers with similar effects. This doesn't mean that La Mer doesn't deliver results, but rather that most of its value comes from the story behind the formula. After all, the human brain falls in love with good narratives, especially when they mix pain, overcoming challenges, and a touch of mystery. And that's precisely what creates the dilemma. On the other hand, there's an emotional component that's impossible to ignore. When someone invests such a high amount in something, they tend to take care of their skin with more discipline, increasing the chance of noticing improvement. The famous premium behavior effect. It's like buying an expensive gym membership and suddenly starting to go every day, just to make the investment worthwhile. Similarly, using La Mer with ritual, consistency, and expectation creates a complete experience that goes beyond chemistry. And, for many people, this combination alone justifies the price. Ultimately, what truly matters isn't just what's inside the jar, but everything the jar represents. And that's where the topic becomes interesting. Value is subjective, and each person evaluates it according to their beliefs, priorities, and desires. Some see an expensive cream, others see self-care elevated to the highest level. This duality between narrative and benefit is what keeps the brand at the top of the market. And now that this cycle is complete, we've reached the point of tying it all together in the powerful introduction you requested. Ultimately, understanding why a La Mer cream costs more than an iPhone says much less about cosmetics and much more about ourselves. The question remains: what has been valued in your life? Are you paying too much for real results or for well-told stories? And, more importantly, how many times have you failed to invest in something that would truly change your routine, but didn't think twice before spending on something that massages your ego? Perhaps the biggest reflection here isn't about La Mer, but about what you're buying daily without realizing it. Emotional comfort, validation, belonging, a sense of power. Are these choices bringing you closer to the life you want to build, or are they just feeding automatic habits? If you could, choose one investment today to transform your reality, where would you start? And since you've made it this far, take the opportunity to continue this journey of knowledge and reflection. Subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and allow this content to help you see the world with more clarity, depth, and awareness. Because in the end, the most valuable luxury is knowing how to choose better.